We have a full agenda today, so we must move on. Good, thank you. We're here to review
Here to talk about performance objectives.
Yes, yeah, performance objectives. Yes, thank you. I have my glasses. I'll read the agenda.
I think this is pretty straightforward. These are suggested performance or objectives for FY 2010 coming up, and this has been part of a process that we've been going through for the last few months. So I think we wanted to run through.
I'm going to share the screen just a little bit, if I can.
What I'd like to do is just sort of show you a little bit of the work.
Is it still on there? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm screwing up your projector now.
Is it a little bit off kilter?
How about yours? Yeah, and can you see?
Oh, I'm fine.
Bill? Yeah.
It's a little curricular.
Well, yeah, there's background on here that's going to show you exactly what we went through to get to the paper.
All right.
And the FY 2010. It all started with the job description, which I think is a great place to start. So we looked at essential functions and we picked out the keywords, that relate to the essential functions in the job description. And then we categorized them basically into three big categories. One is communication, education, and public relations. The second is organizational capacity to deliver services. And the third is really mission-driven activities. And so we color-coded them, and we sort of applied them to job description to pick out those areas. The executive committee was involved in the development of these. This is the front page of what you have in front of you right now. So we used the OGSM strategy, which is to come up with an objective and then to establish a goal, strategies for achieving that goal, and then measures for that strategy to be used on an annual basis.
Excuse me, what did you say?
OGSM. OGSM strategy is what they use. Yeah, and that.
What does that mean?
Objective.
This means objective, goal, strategy, measurement.
Okay,
so those are the four categories that we're going to use. And basically, the goals are things that we'd like to achieve within 3 years or more, and then the strategies and the measures are things that we can look for to achieve within a year or two. So in the communications, education, and public relations piece, the goal is to continue to build strong relationships with the community, regular appearances in front of the town administrators, boards, selectmen, planning boards, to secure training for staff on communications and public relations. We did some customer service training last year. We could do more of that. To oversee the update of the Cape Cod Commission website based on public input. We have begun the process of looking at that. Meeting with John Morse yesterday. Oversee the development of a style guide to unify the identity of the Cape Cod Commission work products and communications. They are a little bit diverse now, and I think probably emblematic of the siloed approach that I encountered when I first came there. To oversee the planning and execution of the Cape Cod Commission's 20th anniversary meeting, which is an open public meeting in the spring, and to oversee development and distribution of an annual survey to the towns. And some of the proposed measures would be 100% retention rate, obviously, of the 15 towns. We dealt with Yarmouth's couple of efforts from Yarmouth to withdraw over the last couple of years. 10% increase in traffic to the new website that we would set up. Boston Globe coverage of the anniversary. Whether we're making inroads with Cape Business Magazine, and based on the survey, whether there would be an 80% satisfaction rate in the annual town survey that might demonstrate that towns are becoming more eager to work with the Cape Cod Commission. So examples of how this single goal, several strategies, and how we might measure some of those strategies. On the organizational capacity and delivery of services, the overall goal is to increase the capacity of the organization to effectively deliver planning, technical, and regulatory services. So the strategies are to work with directors, committee members, and staff to create an organizational plan using this method, the OGSM method, to create a model to create stronger alignment of internal activities and resources with the agency's missions. And this is actually beginning tomorrow, this internal alignment. We're going to have our annual staff retreat tomorrow, and it is really geared towards this internal alignment, making sure, revisiting the commission, that everything we do is important to our core mission, and that we haven't picked up ancillary duties that might be great to do over the years. Maybe they were grant funded, but the grant funding's gone away. And to make sure that everything is aligned with the core mission and that we're not doing things that are unnecessary or superfluous or doing things that are nice when we could be doing something else that was more keyed into what our core mission is. Also to reformat staff meetings, which have become, I didn't recognize the existing format when I got there as being all that useful, and so we've reformatted the staff, and the staff meetings are going to follow. We have a plan to do that we will announce the staff retreat tomorrow. Evaluate work assignments and reassign any necessary to match skills with project needs. Oversee staff assignments to ensure projects are completed in a timely manner to the satisfaction of the town's developers or other clients that the Commission may have. To continue to monitor building renovations and ensure the plans provide the most efficient layout for operations, which is an ongoing effort with our new landlord. Secure technological resources necessary to efficiently carry out the Cape Cod Commission activities, and we've made some inroads there. And to secure the necessary political, human, financial resources necessary to support the Cape Cod Commission activities, and to foster a professional culture that includes effective communication, accountability, and creativity. So some of the measures there would be the development of a 5-year strategic plan, building renovations completed on time, 20% increase in requests for services from the towns, and the Stats Cape Cod is our new database website, economic development website that we need to get operational this year.
Question?
Yes.
You refer to the towns as clients. Has that always been the case?
No.
I didn't think so, but I think it's really important to say that.
No,
it conveys a meaning altogether different.
Right, and we are in the customer service business, and towns clearly are towns, but they are also clients. But then we have other clients too that are not towns and not. So we're trying to reformat the language we use too. I mean, we don't refer to developers, we refer to applicants, and clients, and and that has a very meaningful effect. So organizational capacity, also to reduce structural deficits. I mean, this is an important one at the Commission. The Commission established 20 years ago with a 2.5% increase annually, but unlike towns, that doesn't vary based on new growth. So that's 2.5% on a fixed number. Clearly, healthcare cost benefits have increased far in excess of 2.5%, which is leaving the Commission facing a structural deficit. Right now, the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Fund brings in about 2.6 annually to what is an over a $4 million operating budget now. So we have to supplement that with grants and other non-property tax-based revenue. And I think we've been pretty good at that, but we have to find a way to really fill in that structural deficit. To ensure the agency has adequate financial services, and that funding from the Environmental Protection Fund is equal to or less than the sum of other non-county sources, and that no funding is received from county sources. That was when I got here. The Cape Cod Commission had for some time relied on $100,000 to $150,000 of funds from the county's general revenue, and I didn't. Although we did have to ask for $100,000 the first year that I was here because the budget was already in place. That's something I felt strongly about then that we didn't need to do and we shouldn't be doing. And we have taken steps to submit a budget last year that didn't ask for any, and I don't expect that any time in the future we're going to come forward and ask for general funds to be used to support the administrative costs of the Cape Cod Commission. In the past, it had been a practice because the Commission is the only county department that rents, and it was seen as a rental offset, but I think it's unnecessary. It's not something that we should be asking to do for us. It's something we should be able to do on our own. So the strategies would be to review the budgeted activities, determine which ones will expand or change, increase revenue from grants and direct services to towns, seek new opportunities for state and federal support, such as achieving a designation as an economic development district, which is something that we discussed with the federal EDA as part of the SEDS process when they were here over the summer. And that would bring SERPED, for example, is an economic development district, and that generates $60,000 from the feds to SERPED on an annual basis. It's probably a 2 to 3 year process to establish that district. If we were to establish that district and there were funds that were coming to support that, we could, in our new arrangement with the EDC, return that money to the EDC, have more money available for grants, so that that EDC grant over 3 years is really seed money to build capacity, to help us hopefully support that capacity and have that license plate money available for grants back. to the towns.
A comment?
Yes.
Since the commission did use county funds in the past,
Yes.
say last year $100,000, and now you don't.
Right.
I think that's all the more reason that we should ask the Assembly to support our regionalization efforts and use that equivalent 100 to 150,000 for regionalization. It's another.
Yeah, and part of this is, our mission has expanded, and our collaboration with other county entities, including the Water Protection Collaborative and the EDC, have expanded. If you look at the EDC also had come in the past to the county for $150,000 in administrative expenses. So not only is the $150 from the Cape Cod Commission not on the general tax levy anymore, no longer is the EDC's admin overhead on the tax. So that's a $300,000 annual savings to the county by coordinating those funding streams the way that they've been coordinated now. And I don't think that gets a lot of press or a lot of credit or a lot of recognition. And so I think it's important that the Assembly understands that that's where we are. And I think that's really credit to the commissioners for seeing whether budgets are tight, we can do more with less if we collaborate more. So I think that's an important issue. So collaborate with other businesses and organizations to leverage existing resources and expand services, and develop our reset business model to generate revenue through responses to towns' RFPs, requests for services, existing services. The commission, as it is currently composed, can provide excellent professional resources to the towns. And where towns in the past have had to go out to RFP for consulting services on some issues, I think the commission is in a position now to offer equal to or better services at half the cost. Understanding that a lot of the services the commission provides to towns are free and should be free because we are funded the way that we're funded. But where we can save towns money by not having to hire outside consultants, it may be appropriate to charge a reasonable fee to be reimbursed for that. An example is we just helped Harwich complete their open space plan, and commission staff put in over 200 hours into that. And we went into that offering that assistance up front, and the Harwich town manager has requested us to sort of bill them, get a reasonable amount for the assistance that we're getting. So we're seeing more of that cooperation from towns where they know that they can get less from us. And the reality is they hire outside consultants to come in. Those consultants, the first phone call generally is the Cape Cod Commission to get the information that they will reformat and then charge the town for. And, sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't.
And excuse me, and that usually costs them more money if they go to an independent consultant, and they're basically...
So to provide a higher level of resources internally, and that may generate non-regulatory funds for the commission to support.
I think Bill has a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Since there's been an integration of the EDC and the Cape Cod Commission, what consideration are you given for the role of the county EDC now that it's essentially made a commitment to support the Cape Cod Commission? How do you see your relationship as far as what kind of a metric will be used?
Well, we're looking to this is an incremental process, so we're here to talk to you. All of this is really in draft form. We have talked to the executive committee. You'll see later that some of the goals that we worked out with the county administrator last year are also reflected up here. And so we're trying to come up with this process, Bill, but we will be working with the EDC to figure out how the way that we envision this happening is we sort of are have become the staff for the EDC in a lot of ways, and they are the sort of overarching brain power. And really, the commission did not have that sort of proactive economic development expertise from an advisory board in the past. And I think that's the role that I see for the EDC going forward. But clearly, the reset business model and some of the other economic development work that we're going to do is going to be measured, and we would expect that the EDC would weigh in on those measures.
If I may, I think it would be useful just to think about what focus and what areas of expertise we need from an advisory board on the EDC going forward, in respect to, with the exception of two members that I could think of that had a focus on economic issues that looked at macro rather than than micro applications. it might be useful to find out how we can change that focus so it would be more useful to fit in with your strategic plan.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want their advice to be narrowly focused on things that have been traditional, areas of economic interest.
No, I agree, and I think we had a little bit of this conversation yesterday, and I think the direction that we're headed in is broader, more regional economic development impacts. I think it's appropriate for the commissioners to weigh in with the EDC to sort of nudge them in that direction. What I like about the EDC board, the way it's constructed, is these are not town representatives or municipal representatives. They are individuals with experience that have been chosen to represent, and it's easier for a group constructed that way to have a truly regional output and not one that is more parochial, defensive of the existing town position. So I think we can get there, but I think it's an important shift in focus that needs to be discussed at the EDC, and I think it's very appropriate for the commissioners to weigh in on that.
And I personally would look forward to your advice, as to what kind of resources you'd need in order to be successful in that area.
Yeah, I think we are moving, and I don't want to get too much off track, but I think the EDC already, we are talking about some very big grants. I mean, Open Cape is out there for $30 million, Biofuels is out there for $19 million, and then we've got other international corporations that I think we'll be discussing more in the coming months that now want to look at the comprehensive economic development strategy for the region as a way that they might sort of take some of what they do and bring it into the region and roll it up. I think that's very exciting. So from the Commission's perspective, I know it's an area that we've never been before. I think it isn't the kind of area that the EDC hasn't been. These aren't small grants to local organizations. These are really macro regional issues. And so I think already that partnership has paid dividends, and so I'm hopeful that will continue. So there are the measures there. Now, in the mission-driven activities, the goal really is to increase the regional planning efforts. And, there's that shift from the Commission being a regulatory agency that does anecdotal planning by request to a planning agency that implements that plan through a regulatory framework. And so we want to increase those regional planning efforts. So the strategy would be to establish Regionalization Support Center in conjunction with the county commissioners. That is, Office for Regional Coordination kind of activities. As we've discussed in the past, how we might be able to roll up some money to support those. Examine opportunities for collaboration with Plymouth, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. We have coordinated greatly with the islands over the issue of what we're going to do with offshore energy generation, wind, on the Green Communities Act, the Ocean Management Plan, and the wind siting reform legislation that's floating around. We've had some discussions with Plymouth. The chair and I and Kevin Galligan went up to Halifax to discuss some issues with some folks up there. But more importantly, we've actually approached and worked with Plymouth on solid waste now. So we have several southeastern Massachusetts communities that are working with us on really important unified approaches to solid waste, municipal solid waste streams.
When you talk to Senator Eldridge, I hope you bring up the possibility of how we could participate in some of the state regionalization efforts, especially to tap into what I would call some of the grants that they're generating with regard to helping us move our process forward.
Well, I agree, and regionalization on a state level, is probably another discussion that we have, because I think this administration's interpretation of some of these regional acts is incongruent at times and certainly hasn't been in our best interest. I don't think they're really regional at all. So we might want to talk about how we format that response to the administration.
One other point, when you talk about the regional planning, Plymouth Rock Studios is another, because I have had 3 people contact me in the last couple of weeks for filming opportunities. From London, they come from London. They come from elsewhere in the country, and they're coming here now. I'm sure it's a result of Plymouth Rock Studios. So I think there's something that is out there that we should probably get our arms around.
Elizabeth has been in a couple of meetings.
General business, but go ahead.
With Plymouth Rock Studios and trying to sort of figure out what they're doing. There's been some change in leadership up there, but we are keyed in on that. Sandwich has actually been out front on talking to them about some ancillary facilities that they may need to locate on the Cape. And we have been working and talking to the local chambers and the chamber about some of those other opportunities there. So that is an important piece.
We have to come back to that at the end of this because there's some other things that I want to talk to all of you about that I want to...
Okay. So to collaborate with entities who share regional planning objectives like the Cape Light Compact and Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative, who we work very closely with, and I think the combination of the Commission, the CLC and CVEC demonstrate the robust nature of county government, especially when compared to some of the council governments that exist in other places. So, and very useful tools, and they should put us at the top of the list for some of these larger grants that we're competing for, because we have capacity that other areas simply don't have. And I think with those organizations put us ahead of the curve on a lot of these issues. And so to direct staff to facilitate meetings and manage projects of regional benefit, and to advocate for regulatory authority over ocean-based wind facilities in the Ocean Management Plan. We're in the process of doing that. The measures here are a new DLTA website. That's direct local technical assistance. That's money that we get, the Commission gets through DHCD every year. Last year was the first year we could use it for regional projects, and we did. That's some of the money I think we might be able to match with an Office for Regional Coordination. So we take 150 there, 150 here. I think we could roll up a fairly robust program. The SEDS annual update to be complete by June 2010. So we're using that. It is a real living document. We have 16 priority projects now. We're having an implementation meeting on the 27th. And so we will be following that up through the year. And I think the success of that program to date has attracted the attention of some communities and other people that maybe didn't participate last year that will want to participate in an annual update. The Regional Wastewater Management Plan will be complete this year. I can't overstate how important that plan is, especially given some of the backlash in some of these communities that are starting to have capital discussions about wastewater. A regional agreement for municipal solid waste executed this year. We've been have some very productive meetings there. Patty Daly and Elizabeth have really been leading the charge on that. Very good example of regional efforts. And then hopefully we'll get Chapter H adopted by the Assembly this year, which I think is probably the most meaningful economic development ordinance the county has done in a decade. So.
That's not counting the books.
County. And so the second goal would be to increase direct planning and technical services to the towns to develop our reset business model to work in these economic centers directly, which we are doing in Bourne and Yarmouth, Dennisport, and Sandwich, to improve the capacity to support organizational structure planning, regulatory and technical services, and to increase the promotion of services through our newsletter, annual report, and meetings with the towns. So if we looked at FY 2009, we've got some major accomplishments. We really looked at the objectives of the 21st Century Task Force. That has been sort of a guiding document for my first 2 years as executive director. The county administrator objectives last year, and some of the objectives that the executive committee looked at. And this is how we developed the product that's in front of you now, looking at FY 10. Some of the major accomplishments of the Yarmouth, we had 2 votes within 1 year. We had 4 regional planning and capital investment initiatives. The RPP, which is new, updated, and up for an award this year. The SEDS project, the stimulus package, reacting to that with 14 projects that were approved by the MPO, and the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Major initiatives, and especially with the RPP and the SEDS, as proud as I am of the substance in those documents, I am as proud of the process, the public process we went through to develop those. Definitely not a top-down process. Significant staff and organizational restructuring, and then the ongoing Cape Wind efforts, which are now in litigation. So these are the 21st Century Task Force recommendations. This is the matrix, which has planning recommendations, regulatory recommendations, management, communications recommendations, and the status of each as of June 2009. This really was sort of a guiding document for us. These are the 4 objectives that Mark and I had for last year, which is to continue the efforts to build strong relationships with towns and Cape organizations, working with the Water Protection Collaborative to develop a regional wastewater management plan, improving the Commission's mapping activities, especially with respect to land use, wind resources, and FAA regulations on the wind side, and to develop the 2010 Cape Cod Commission budget, taking into consideration potential resource constraints from the county. So you can see where those were very general and good objectives, but I think in this new structure, with these specific measures, a little bit easier to follow and to translate into
specific strategies and your measures against it.
And then there were 14 objectives that the executive committee really came up with. So what we did is we took all of these, the 4 objectives, and the areas that are highlighted here are those areas that relate directly to those.
Excuse me, would you leave the room?
I thought it was off.
So the areas that are highlighted here are those that refer back to those job description highlights. So that's what we want to make sure that the job description is consistent with the goals for me, not the goals for the organization, but the goals that I would be in charge of. And then again, the same set of highlighting of those major sections in the executive committee reports, and then these common themes that we developed from there, using the highlighting again in these 3 areas. And so we can see how these areas refer back to those objectives. There are a number of slides here that we go through, but this is the process that we went through. We went through all of the objectives, the job description, all of the objectives, highlighting in those objectives the areas that relate back to the job description, and then relating them back to each one of these areas that we looked at. So this is organizational capacity, basically to do more with less in the delivery of services, the budget, looking at the previous county subsidy, the elimination of that county subsidy, and the need to increase grants in order to get to that fiscal stability piece that we looked at. DLTA funds, how we use those. The reorganization, these are all examples of things that we did. These are new staff members that were brought on, part of the reorganization.
Are you going to give us this PowerPoint presentation?
I would be happy to give that this PowerPoint. This is the reset team, all that, and this is all the background work. I could have showed this up front and then produced the document, but the digitization process that we're going through. So this is all that we went through, our increased ability to do transportation modeling, more executive committee issues, photo simulation services that we can offer to towns on the consulting side to generate money, space issues, and then mission-driven activities in the regional policy plan, land use vision maps. And I like this slide. These are our Cape Cod Commission regulations, and we have revisited almost every one of these letters in the last 2 years and trying to reformat the way that we do business. So we have Chapter A, which is our enabling regulations, Chapter B, which is the regional policy plan, C is the RPP review process, D are the development agreements, E are the regs or the DCPCs, F, impact fees, G for growth incentive zones, and H, hopefully, the ability to raise and lower thresholds. So if we look and highlight the different areas, A, B, D, and H, we can see where we've looked at economic centers and land use vision maps, industrial service and trade areas, village centers, and the increasing and decreasing of thresholds under Chapter H. And then under Chapter A, we've got 33 DRI applications, 16 DRI modifications, and no appeals. In the past, we've had a lot of appeals, and that eats up litigation funds, so I think that's a measure of success. The regional policy plans, we have 7 out of 15 towns, and that number is going to be going up by 2 soon that have endorsed land use vision maps. 10 to 15 towns have certified LCPs in FY09, and 12 of those 15 towns have certified LCPs in FY10. The review process, we have a housing review that's underway now. The development agreements, we have 3 projects that have filed intentions to go forward with development agreements, the Red Jacket, Blue Water Hotels, the Villages, the Sandwich Golden Triangle, and I believe we have a new one for Mashpee Commons under expansion now. The DCPCs, we have 2 new ones in Brewster and in Barnstable and Craigville. And then the GIZ, we have 3 applications that are in. Phase 2 GIZ in Yarmouth. We have a Buzzards Bay Growth Incentive Zone application that we're working on right now. And we have also one at Dennisport. Dennisport just finished their charrette. They had a 5-day charrette last week. That was wildly successful for they had over 120 people there to talk about Dennisport. It was really impressive. And then hopefully Chapter H. These are our reset slides, again tying back to policies in a regional policy plan and pathways, tying back to county administrator objectives and the mission-driven activities. This is our GIS department, which we've expanded significantly in the last 2 years, and human resources and investment in technical resources there, and really working with Open Cape as an important component of that Open Cape project to provide umbrella GIS services regionally in a way that provide higher quality services to towns for pennies on the dollar for what they're paying now. DOE grants, transportation projects, which are numerous, and all of these tying back to these the executive committee objectives. Ocean Advisory Committee, this is the ocean plan. There's also a corresponding SEDS project for coastal development. And that's it. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We could spend a number of hours going through the slides as we have done internally. But basically, what you have in front of you is a summation of all of that work that went from the job description to the number of different objectives, which sort of points out the difficulty that we've had in the past with the commission being sort of what it is, answering to the Cape Cod Commission on some substantive issues related to the interpretation of the Act, answering to the county commissioners in that structure. And so different objectives from different people and sort of scooping them all together into this approach. And now with a new relationship with the commissioners, hopefully being able to use this format going forward.
Is it possible that we could take this on the road somewhere? The first thing I think of is it takes about 30 minutes to go through it.
Right.
You know, maybe we could, if you had some time, either the 13th or the 20th, we could take it over to the C3 TV, and we could do the voiceover, on it, and then we could then get a copy of that, and then, let's say send copies of it to each one of the towns. It's a very impressive presentation.
Thank you.
It's very, very well designed. And I think that your presentation as a voiceover is excellent. So I think that I think more people need to see it. And as popular as our TV program is, I think it would be worthwhile to have something we'd actually send to each one of the communities directly.
This is a draft that you have now for your consideration to sort of go through to see if there's something we've left out or some other point of emphasis we want to make. So that's for your consideration. These are my personal objectives. So this is what we'll be talking about throughout the next year. In addition to that, though, a lot of these same principles are going to go into what is going to be the overall strategic plan for the agency. And I think you're right. I think we can refine this presentation for the strategic plan for the agency and go out there and show people exactly how we're going to do it, what the measures are, and I think it will be very informative. It's been a great internal process. It's been a very good process for me. It's been a process that I have to thank Elizabeth for because she's really led that process and brought this OGSM approach to the way that we think about it, because it's so, you read the Act and it's the responsibilities are so broad and general and far-reaching that to try to get your hands around it in a strategic plan that is condensed enough and effective enough and has real measures takes a lot of effort.
I would only have one caution, though, and that's whenever I hear 5 years, I get disturbed because it sort of, to me, it always puts off at some time way in the future.
Right.
And I noticed that on here you have some specific objectives to be accomplished within a shorter period of time. And I hope you give consideration when you have your staff retreat about the importance of every year showing some progress towards meeting the overall objectives within a strategic planning process.
These are my performance objectives. We will be closing very quickly on the Commission's overall objectives, and then every department will have their own internal. Once you get this OGSM method down, it can break down into an infinite number of subgroups so that they can actually be used to inform the personnel evaluations of my sort of senior management team with every member of my organization. So they'll all have their own sort of component of this. So we have a strategic plan that actually is a work plan with measures that we can look at the end of the year. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. If I can ask Elizabeth, what was your process? How did you go through this with Paul and others? I mean, I saw some of it in the process, but I think it would just be interesting for the commissioners to hear how you went about this and how you brought him to this place, Elizabeth. I know that we have to give you a lot of credit here.
But I will preface her comments by saying that I have not, in the past, been a big fan of strategic planning because I have been involved with organizations that spent months contemplating their navel and trying to figure out who they were instead of doing any work. And I want to get out there and do the work. So with a healthy dose of skepticism and a prohibition against using any newspaper gods, Elizabeth had to sort of take these principles and show me that we really could do this in an efficient way, a meaningful way, in a way that I didn't feel was wasting time. And she was very successful.
So tell us how you go about this.
Thank you. So it was a little bit of a different, non-traditional strategic planning process, and for a long time I wasn't allowed to use the word strategic planning. So, but what we did, it was just, really I sat down with Paul, and it was a series of interviews with Paul and with the senior management staff, and reviewing the Act. Spent a lot of time, taking a look at the Act, taking a look at those guiding documents. Always start with those: the job description, the objectives, and the task force recommendations. And it was just a matter of spending some time with that and getting comfortable and really pulling out the essence of what those were all trying to say, and that's where those common themes came from. And I think once we had the common themes defined, it became easier to understand, okay, where we need to go in the future. I think Paul has a very, very good handle on Cape Cod, and the needs 20 years ago may be a little bit different than the needs today, but the overall mission is still the same. And so it was just a matter of that working back and forth, and I thought it was a very successful approach to working. It was quick. We shared it with the executive committee. With the Cape Cod Commission.
It's a great document. So you were able to take all of that discussion and sort of synthesize it into these almost like bumper stickers in a sense, like into an idea, and then you
yes,
played that off of everybody and said, is this what you mean by everything we've just discussed?
Right.
And so they come to that, and then you go to the next.
Correct.
They're easily understood. I mean, you read them and you know exactly what they mean. So that when you look to the strategic part of it and to the measurement part of it, it all becomes very clear and it fits together. Really a good job. I'm impressed.
In the past, I've been associated with some of these projects where you get measures, and a lot of them are quantifiable measures, and they're meaningless to the operation of the organization. And they're easy to hit for people that are just concerned with getting to the numbers. And here, I think we have a different process. And so I think the goals will not change. The strategies are our best suggestion, our best guess at how we're going to achieve those goals, and the measures are going to test whether those strategies are correct or not. So when we go through the measures at the end of the year, we may fail some of those measures, but that's informative about the strategy that we used without any effect on the goal. So it may call that we didn't hit this is why, because we thought this strategy was going to work. It didn't work. So there's a feedback loop on it that brings it from one year to the next year to the next year. And I really like that from a management perspective.
So now we have to take Elizabeth to all of our and to us, and we can. We'll
for a small fee.
Yeah, for a small fee. Yeah, right. Since we don't pay you, pay you anything. Yeah, it might be direct payment as opposed to the commission.
If I could just add, I just want to give credit to the tool. I was taught this tool years ago, and it was brought over from Japan, and Procter & Gamble has used it. It's really been used in a lot of the big corporations, and one of the reasons it's so successful is exactly what you said. It's simple. The entire organization can put one page on their wall and very easily understand what the expectations are for them. So if the county was interested in using this model, I don't know that I personally could handle that particular task, but I am able to provide you with resources of people that...
Is this Demita?
That would be very, very good.
Is this Demita?
The name.
No, the name, was it the, there was a Japanese model that was used several years ago that was based on an executive from the Ford company that went over to Japan and set up quality circles and things of that sort.
Demeter doesn't sound familiar, but there's another name, and I'm not sure exactly who it is, and then there was an award created.
Yeah. Is that the program?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
We have to be careful because I remember Florida Power Light almost went bankrupt when they were in preparing to win that award. So.
We won't overreach. Are there any questions? Any comments?
Thank you.
I would like to suggest that there's a lot of work that that's gone into this, and I've already commented on what I call the quality of the presentation. I'd like to suggest to my fellow commissioners that we take an opportunity to look at this and do what Paul suggested, which is to see whether
and provide some feedback.
Right.
I agree.
But my first reaction is this is very positive and it's wonderful. Good for you.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work for both. Thank you.
Any comments from the public or questions?
It's impressive, and we are from the League of Women Voters.
Yes, I know.
As part of the Observer Corps to learn more about our county government, and this is very interesting for me. I saw you at the Brewster meeting last week, and so
I wonder if we could actually take it under advisement and at the same time schedule a time when we want to come back with our comments.
Why don't we do that?
Particularly, otherwise,
it'll get lost. Do you want to comment next week? Or?
I think that's probably
just one thing. I'd like to, although we're basically just responding to this particular document. I found that there was a lot of detail and useful stuff in there that so if you could give
you the entire presentation.
Give us a CD on that, and then we could look at all of it, but and have the benefit of going over it, because there's a lot of stuff that I think that all of us could use when we're going out doing our business, because it speaks to the things that we're trying to accomplish for the community.
We touched on last week talking about maybe doing a regional conference here on the cable.
Yes.
And your 20th anniversary is next year?
Yes.
So it's 2010.
And actually, it should be this year, or should it?
2009.
Depends whether you measure it from the passage of the act or the implementation.
When was it 1990 that it was implemented? Okay, so it passed in 89.
89. Okay, so it's been functioning for 20 years next year. Are you going to do a? It would be really a good thing to do an expo, but really a presentation, like a Cape Cod Commission Day, where you really do invite the public to an auditorium, to a place where you can discuss what the Cape Cod Commission, where it has been and where it is now. I mean, really kind of oversee what, and have old footage and, that sort of thing, and then bring people to where you are. And I'm not sure how you could do it, but it would be a great opportunity for people to understand the evolution and what the purpose of the commission is, because no one really does understand it other than you say no. So, and that's what they think.
Anybody that's ever gone to any of our meetings.
That's exactly right. But that's their impression, and that's what the impression that's out. For those that are against, the few, I think, and their numbers are getting fewer, who are adversaries, get that. They have louder voices always, and so people's impressions are colored. I'm just throwing that out. But have you thought about how you're going to?
We're in the beginning stages of thinking about how we're going to do this. What I feel is important is I think the commission should have an annual meeting that is open to the public. And I don't think that we do that now. I think we probably should do more of that.
Right.
So the question is, how do we sort of structure that? There is a good.
We have that. We actually have a.
I believe.
We actually have a. When you publish your annual report, it always seemed to me that in the private sector, when the annual report is published, that's when you have your annual stockholders meeting. So if you tied the two things together, I think that, everybody would go away with something.
Right.
And you'd be able to go over, lessons learned and what you're going to do next year.
Yeah, and I think it's an appropriate time to revisit where we're at. I mean, Elizabeth and I have had discussions, and the strategic plans, good ones, can last for 20 years. But, we are facing very difficult and different challenges over the next 20 years compared to the last one. And we have to make sure that we have a core mission is consistent with those next challenges, with the next 20 years. And so I think there is no more appropriate time than this spring, I think, to revisit that very thoroughly.
I can see the combination of intelligent design and evolution all mixing together to show where we're going.
I hope so.
I'm going to suggest we bring this back on October 28th, which is 3 weeks from today, and it's the day after the SEDS meeting.
Oh, good. Okay.
So that might be a good time to,
Yes.
do you think?
Yeah.
Not overwhelming 2 days together. Okay.
Elizabeth, thank you
Thanks
for all
very
your
much.
work.
That's
We'll be.
great.
And you'll give us a copy of the CD on this? The
Yes.
CD, right?
It's saved on the laptop here, and then I can also bring over some extra CDs.
Bring it over. Okay. Terrific.
Yeah, we'll burn some CDs.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Andrew is next to speak with us, and Paul, if you have a few minutes maybe to stay or come back in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk first about the results of the review committee, and then there was a couple of other things I just wanted to touch on about our approach.
Is Andrew up now?
Andrew is up now.
He's saying heckle me.
Oh, you're kind of long-winded, huh?
Listen to you. You were here for an hour.
Never took a breath either.
Yeah. Elizabeth, do you need help with stuff going back over there? Are you okay?
I think I'm okay. I got it over. And that's all that Mark's got.
Is it the 26th?
27.
Is that a Wednesday?
It's a Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Right, the next day we're going to do it here.